The EP Podcast. Heard everywhere podcasts can be found, and always at theeppodcast.com.
You're in the EP Podcast. My name is Chris Hanna. On the other end of my 9-foot homemade oak bar. This podcast, both superintendents of District 124 breaking down every question I can ask them about reopening schools, and John Brand from Open Outcry. He's got a brand new beer. He wants to show it off. The EP Podcast is brought to you proudly by the First National Bank of Evergreen Park. First National Bank of Evergreen Park, dedicated to supporting our area with great banking tools and friendly service. They are a true community bank, providing our neighborhood with customized financial solutions like total access checking and account with free ATMs nationwide. Plus, when you, an EP Podcast listener, open up a total access checking account today, you get a $300 bonus. All you have to do is visit bankevergreenpark.com/EPPod to learn more. $100 required to open. Requirements to qualify. Must use link to apply. Member FDIC. We're going to talk school reopenings with both the superintendents of District 124, but before that, sitting down right now with me and Hannah, John Brand from Open Outcry over at 109th and Western Avenue. He stops by all the time. How are you, my friend?
I'm well. Chris, how are you?
So, John, what did you bring in for us tonight? I need a beer because here's what's happened in the last 10 minutes. Well, actually in the last half hour. You showed up early while I was sitting in the back eating dinner. and all of a sudden, like, my kid's like, there's a guy out in the backyard. And
moving the furniture around.
and then you're like, I'll be back in a little bit. And I'm like, all right, cool. And I start getting everything set up here. And my wife broke 3 bar glasses back here behind the bar because I don't know what she was doing. She somehow bumped into a cord and knocked over some glasses underneath the shelf. There was glass all over the place. So she's cleaning it up. You get to the driveway. My 5-year-old questions you on whether or not you have COVID.
Yeah, well, no, not COVID. He said, do you have the corona?
Like questioning him through the kitchen window, like hesitant to let him like come in through the back door. Like, wait a minute.
And I said,
do you have the corona?
And I said, buddy, do you have the corona? More importantly.
And
his answer was, no, I don't have the corona.
I don't have the corona, but you look suspect, my friend.
I know.
Okay, so then, and then just before we started, I stepped on a piece of glass that my wife missed sweeping up and picked it out of my foot. I didn't say anything to you about that. Then I flip on the microphones and they're not working. Mm-hmm. So now we've had the show must go on.
We're off to a good start.
Yeah, we're off to a great start. Luckily, we have a bar and we have beer. So tell me a little bit here. I need a drink to get me going, and then we're going to talk to the superintendents from District 124, and then we're going to get back to you and talk more beer. But what did you bring in here for us to try tonight?
So let's get this in you. I'll make you feel better, okay?
Yeah.
This is a beer that I'm really, really proud of. It's called Spot Market. Okay, it's the first time we've made this, and it's a traditional American stout. Our head brewer Will Turner has been making traditional American stouts for a very, very long time. This is a beer he's wanted to do for a very long time. He's done iterations of this in the past at some previous stops, but it's the first time he's done it at Open Outcry, and it's one of my favorite beers that he's ever done. So think American stout, full-bodied, toasty, a lot of coffee characteristics in it as well. What's cool about this stout, that it's also aggressively hopped. The bitterness in this beer is pretty aggressive, which matches that aggressive roastiness in it, and you're going to get a ton of hop flavors in it as well. So a lot of pine and a lot of citrus. The hops he used in this are imparting citrus and pine notes. It's just a really, really, really fun beer to drink. It's also 7.2%. So
let's get to that part.
Right.
Yeah, but I like that. Okay, yes. Like I had a friend of mine. I went over to his house the other night, and I did one of those things where I snuck out of the house. My wife had gone off to go do something with my daughter all day long. They're finally getting to her 8th grade graduation this week, which is crazy. She's gone to 2 weeks of softball workouts with Mother Macaulay, and then she just started band camp this week.
So Mother Macaulay is going back, or is
they
not?
are going?
They
back.
are going.
Yeah,
back.
they're going back, and they're gonna split the kids up. Like depending on what your last name is, you're either going there the first 2 days or the second 2 days.
Are they?
And that's what they're doing: 2 on, 2 off.
High risk students, perhaps students with
everybody gets
respiratory
to
issues. They stay
if
home.
If you want
right?
to stay back, you're allowed to stay back. If you don't want to If you want to e-learn the entire time, you can. And the system they have set up there, which I thought was incredible. And we first heard about it here on the EP podcast months ago when they had just purchased the system. Before they even trained the teachers on it, they told us about we had Eileen O'Reilly, who came over. She's the principal of Mother McCauley, and she was telling us they set up cameras in all the rooms with screens on them. The girls will have to wear their uniforms when they're at home, and will have to go from class to class and check in at the class and be there for roll call and sit through the class. So if they're e-learning, they still have to be in the class while the class is being taught. So half of them will be virtual, and the other half will be in the classroom.
Is the teacher seeing the stream on the other side?
Yes. So the teacher's seeing everything that's happening.
So the teacher will have a screen.
The teacher's in the classroom. So the teacher's standing at the front, and then she can see this screen with her kids on there, and then the rest of the kids are spread out more in the classroom.
The future is here, bro.
I know. It's crazy, isn't it?
It really is.
Yeah. And so she's done all of that, and now she's graduating tomorrow. So, like, yesterday was like a thing where the moms and daughters, a lot of them from the class went to Lake Cottage, and they did like a little thing for them because, they didn't get to do anything and they were outdoors and stuff.
Softball player.
Exactly.
Southpaw?
Yeah, she plays some, no, my daughter?
Yeah.
Well, softball, right-handed though. She's not southpaw. Is that what you said?
That's what I asked.
No, she's not southpaw. No, we got no lefties.
All right.
Yeah, no, not at all. I mean, I don't think it really matters that much in softball as much as it does in.
Have you ever tried to hit a senior, a junior or senior girls fast pitch softball player? Have you ever tried to hit one of those before?
Those are hard.
I can't hit it. I've tried.
I was coaching over at the EPGSL, and we had girls at 14 years old that could bring it at 60-some miles an hour, and I couldn't get around.
But that ball moves so strange.
Oh, gosh,
it just moves so weird, right?
It moves in the weirdest way, and half the time I'm thinking, gosh, if it comes out of their hand wrong, they're going to kill me.
Yes.
Like I'm diving out of the way. Yeah, exactly.
But the skill and talent level on some of these gals, seniors, and I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, no, they're very good, and she knows. I mean, she's very realistic. I mean, the kid batted fifth on the 11U All-Star Championship team, the Illinois Championship team for 11 and under kids. She batted in the middle of the lineup. She's got very realistic expectations. She's like, I'm going to try out. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, thank God.
I don't really know if I'm going to make the McCauley team.
Thank God she looks like your wife.
Can I ask a beer question?
Yeah, ask a beer question here while I try some of this.
All right, so I was going to ask you, John, so how do you decide to try a new beer do you just wake up one morning and decide, I'm going to try something new? Or is this kind of built into like your quarterly plan or your yearly plan, or is it spur of the moment?
Yeah, we have we schedule out and plan our brewing schedule and the beer styles that we brew. A lot of it's driven by seasonality, right? A lot of it's driven by consumer trends and tastes, and mostly it's driven by the requests that we receive from our customers and guests in the tap room. Luckily, our brewer, Will Turner, has been doing this for a very long time. So if you throw any style at him, he's likely brewed it before in the past, and he's put some effort into recipe formulation. The guy can make anything, and he can make anything very well. So depending on where the trends are, what our guests and customers are asking for, and what time of the year it is, that usually will drive what it is we're brewing. Now, we do have a couple flagships, right? So the Speculator Cream Ale, some of our hazy IPAs like the Lewis Winthrop and the Open Interest, those are on. Those beers are on all the time. But then we will rotate beers around those based on all those other things that I mentioned.
Nice. And, Chris and Erica can attest to you, I am not a person to drink dark beers, and I really like this one. This is the American Stout?
It's an American Stout called Spot Market.
It's really good.
You get those piney citrus notes in there, which is unexpected.
I get the coffee, too. That's what I like. I get the coffee. I really like it.
So she's just going to sit there and down it. Look, I'm going to tell you something right now. With stouts, I think everybody starts on a Guinness. I think that's like a Southside thing.
That's a fair point.
Everybody starts on a Guinness.
Fair point. Yep.
Yeah, everybody starts on a Guinness. And then some people never move off of the Guinness. They just go, well, that's a stout, and that's what it is. It's very different, though, when you become like one of these people that hits different beers and you like to try different things. You realize there's so many different types of stouts.
Well, even within the stout family, there's 4 or 5 different defined stout categories.
And I become one of those people that likes to have the barrel-aged ones, to the point where I'm drinking this going, there's no bourbon in this. Like, that's how bad I've gotten with it, where I'm like always expecting something to be in a barrel now, because I think people like to put things in barrels, and I think stouts are the best things to put in a barrel. But it's good to have a stout that doesn't have that flavor every once in a while. It reminds me of what I used to like before the barrel stuff came along.
So the innovation and evolution in the American craft beer scene in the last 5 to 10 years has been incredible. It's been a ton of fun, but a stout in particular, what we think of or expect in a stout in 2020 is much different than 5 or 10 years ago. And specifically the sweetness. There has been a drift in the sweetness in stouts over the last couple of years. And a lot of folks now, like when you drink a barrel-aged stout, you're getting massive amounts of sweetness in your mouth. And some of the beers that we've been trying to do have been trying to recreate maybe perhaps what a stout would have tasted like 5 or 10 years ago. Try to remove some of that sweetness, try to reinstall some of those more traditional characteristics that you would have expected before. And by the way, I'm happy. I'm having a lot of fun with all this innovation and change in beer, but it is also fun to go back and try to do something that maybe was what was expected 5, 10, 15 years ago. And I think this beer in particular, the Spot Market, is an attempt to do that. All those less sweetness and roast and coffee and those melanoid type notes, and then balanced with those hops. This is what an American stout would have tasted like 5 or 10 years ago.
Open Outcry, 10934 Southwestern Avenue, nearby. Visit John in person. They got an amazing upper deck on top of the roof. Some indoor seating as well they're allowed to have, and they deliver online, OpenOutcryBrewing.com. Thank you, my friend, for joining the EP podcast. It is now time for your EP podcast, Word on the Street, brought to you by Unidad, a Latin kitchen and bar. Open every day except for Monday. Happy hour Tuesday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. Sunday brunch, 10:30 to 3 o'clock. It's amazing. Incredible outdoor patio. And now open for lunch Tuesday through Friday, 11 to 2 p.m. 3339 West 95th Street. Visit UnidadRestaurant.com for more details. The Evergreen Park Library is selling stuff. They're having their annual sale of books, DVDs, VHS tapes, if you still have a VHS player, CDs, and audiobooks. And it kicks off on Monday the 10th. It will go on all week long. You can browse all the items during regular hours. You can fill a bag of books for $1. 9400 South Troy Avenue, over at the library, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. A little bit of news out of the Evergreen Park Girls Softball League. They have shut things down for just a little bit before the playoffs because a coach and a couple of players tested positive for COVID-19. So far, everybody seems like they're going to be okay. The spread seems to have stopped. They updated everybody in their league. They are hoping to be able to restart and finish their season, which was almost done on August the 17th. That's your EP Word on the Street, brought to you by Unidad. The EP podcast rolls on, found everywhere podcasts can be found, and always at theeppodcast.com.
At Cousin Subs, loyalty has its rewards. You love a deli fresh ham and provolone, right? Join the club. You love a made-to-order grilled cheesesteak, right? Join the club. You love Wisconsin cheese curds, right? Join the club. You love rewards too, right? Then join the club. The Cousins Club is Cousin Sub's new loyalty program where you earn points on every purchase, points that are redeemable on all of your favorites. So download our app or sign up online and start earning today. Cousin Subs, we believe in better.
And now some of your neighbors in Evergreen Park have brought a Cousin Subs to the EP, 9204 Southwestern Avenue. An extensive, delicious menu with everything made to order, fresh, daily. Dine in, take out, delivery. Visit Cousin Subs today, 9204 Southwestern Avenue, or order online, cousinsubs.com. Joining me on the phone line right now on the EP podcast, we've had their predecessor on a couple of times, but he's moved on, Dr. Robert Maychek. And now there are two co-interim superintendents for District 124, Dr. Margaret Longo, Dr. Leila Bridges-Webb, both on the line with me right now to talk about the school's reopening plan. And first of all, what a time to have to take over this role. No wonder there has to be two of you. And secondly, welcome onto the program.
Oh, thank you, Chris. Good morning, and we're so happy to be joining your podcast, and really excited about sharing with you the plans that we've been putting together to start school. Yes, they're daunting times, but we are feel like we're meeting the challenge, and we're not doing it alone. We have over 75 people plus a community partnership with Christ Hospital helping us work on a safe opening for schools for our children.
How daunting is the task, if you could kind of sum it up for me? Because this is something that some school districts have just thrown up their hands and said, we're not even going to try to bring the kids back into the building. I want to say, first of all, I commend you for giving it a shot here, because I think most people understand, and we had Dr. David Beckman, who's a local physician. He's one of the leading people in the area in terms of doing COVID testing. He started doing the drive-up testing, I think, back in March. He was doing the antibody testing before anybody else in the area had it. He comes on every once in a while and gives us the data, and he was just recently on the show. And I think a lot of people understand that this is more of a safety question for the teachers and also those that the kids may bring the disease back to. Whereas for the kids, the mortality rate is extremely low. There's a lot of data that says that it's very hard for them to pass it around, and they're probably the safest of the entire bunch. But you have to deal with a lot of public pressure. You have to deal with a lot of fears and worries of parents, and you have to figure out how you're going to be able to get these kids the best education you can, at least to start off this year, and hopefully by the back end things are better. How daunting is this task for you?
Well, you want to talk to us at 3 o'clock in the morning, or do you want to talk to us? It's like, these are things that we wake up about at night. One child sick is too many. One staff member sick is too many. So we've been putting systems in place that are processes and procedures, routines and rituals, working with our team. So for instance, every child will have a tri-fold shield on their desk. Everyone will be required to wear masks, as we are doing right now when we're talking to you. Teachers will travel, children will not. There will always be distancing in the classroom. We've purchased PPE for our staff members. They will be wearing masks. They have the option of putting an additional shield on. If there's private conversations with children, we have additional shields built. Our offices have plexiglass shields that have been built. It will look different. I mean, it will be a very different start to the school year. And yes, it is daunting, but we know that our children need to be in school. So we're providing, working with our administrators, working with our teachers union, working with our parents, working with our board members to provide the most safe environment for everyone. And again, one person sick is too many for us. So we have cleaning and disinfecting procedures in place. Bathrooms are going to be disinfected every single hour. When teachers can't use the same space without it being disinfected before they move into that space. We are crossing our T's and dotting our I's, and we are praying at the same time.
Yeah.
In addition to what Dr. Longo just stated, we will have temperatures taken every day before when they enter the building, students and staff. We will also we're retrofitting our water fountains so that they are touchless and students can bring their water bottles. Again, we talked about the disinfecting and cleaning and disinfecting, not only on a daily basis for classrooms, an hourly basis for our restroom areas and other facilities. So we're just trying to do what's best. And you're right, it is daunting, but we believe schools are to do what's best for children and as well as staff members as well. And we believe that we've, again, tried to cross all the T's and dotted all the I's. And it's exciting, but it's also a little scary.
Yeah, I can imagine. You know, I have kids at very different levels of education over here, so I feel like I've gotten a good perspective from every age group. I have a daughter that just graduated the 8th grade and is going into high school. She's attending Mother Macaulay, so I've seen what their plan is. And let's be honest, they've got donors over there. They've got some space-age system in there with a camera that follows the teachers around. I have a son that's at Most Holy Redeemer in the 7th grade, and he's going to end up staying at Redeemer because he's older. And I'm like, I could send him back to school, and I'm used to him being in a mask. But I'll be honest with you, I took my son who went to preschool at Redeemer, and I moved him over to District 124, and he'll be attending Southwest this year. And the reason I did that is because I've seen him try to walk around with a mask, and I see how difficult it is. And I realize that I might end up having to keep him at home. Can you talk a little bit about the challenges with the younger kids? Because, you know, last year when we were doing homeschooling, my daughter who was in the 8th grade and my son who was in 6th at that point, the two of them, they could get their assignments, do their work, and I barely had to worry about them. It was the little guy that made things so difficult and trying to figure out how I was going to teach him. I have a great appreciation for the teachers, especially those that have to deal with the young kids and make sure that they don't get off track. Can you talk a little bit about how you're going to handle those younger kids that may have a problem wearing the mask, may have some difficulties with online learning because they're not as self-sufficient?
We'll be working with the kids. We started sending information out via our newsletter about helping kids practice wearing masks. But our remote learning is going to look very much like our in-person learning, and that there is an expectation that between 5 and 6 hours a day, children will be on the computer. We're blessed that we have technology one-to-one initiative for our children. However, I get where you're coming from. We've heard from several parents. It's difficult. It's going to be an arduous task, districts that are going full remote, when parents have to go to work and maybe grandparents are picking up the slack. But we're structuring our remote learning so that there is face-to-face learning remotely with breaks, during the day. But the day is going to look very similar. Now, our littlest ones that are deciding to go remote, kindergarten and pre-K, will have a 2.5-hour day because we know a 5 to 6 hour day is just too much for little ones using technology. I appreciate what you're saying, and I know how difficult, but we are strict in following the guidelines. It's the only way we can keep our entire population safe.
I realized that he's going to have such a hard time with the mask. I was like, well, I'm going to end up having to e-learn him. Like, I chose the option, at least for the first, just to kind of see how things go. I was like, well, let's see how it goes. He can sit at home for a little bit, and we'll see how everything goes with him. The other two, I'm like, you can wear a mask. I've been watching. Like, I hand the older kids their mask as they walk out the door. I go, if you walk into a place with your friends, make sure you put your mask on and carry around your hand sanitizer. I feel like it's a little simpler with the older kids just because of the fact that once they learn a little bit of responsibility, it's easier for them to be able to throw those on and get used to this new time. Did you have anything that you guys wanted to do that you thought to yourself, like, we'd love to do this, but there's a restriction that stops us from doing it? Or do you feel like everything that's in place right now pretty much was in line with what you wanted to do this semester?
Oh, there's always stuff for, how about a vaccination would be the first thing that we really want, right? Because we want all of our kids in school. But,
yeah.
We believe we're both advocates of continuous improvement. So we know, for the grace of God, go I. We know that we will have to be dynamic in our planning and making sure that we are very thoughtful. And when we see issues, that we need to address them immediately and follow our plan with fidelity. And so if changes need to be made, it has to be constantly monitored. I think our principals and teachers understand that. We rolled out our reopening plan. We are going to be having a board of the whole meeting next Thursday. We're inviting parents to ask questions, that we can group those questions according to category to ask us questions publicly. You're right. It's daunting, as you called it earlier. It's everybody on every hand on deck. Everyone's rolling up their sleeves to make this plan successful. We are doing everything. We're following the science. We're doing everything possible to make it a safe learning environment. And so is there something that we would want? Yes, we want every one of our children to be in school.
But relative to the guidelines that come to us from the CDC and the governor, we think they're reasonable, and they're not impossible. It's just limiting and having the options offered to us, to parents. That may be hard with scheduling, but we're up to it.
Building relationships, supporting the community, and service. These are the things that Country Financial stands for. They're more than just an office you may pass by as you drive through Evergreen Park. They're neighbors who lend a helping hand and support the fabric of your community, including charitable organizations, sports, financial education, and civic organizations. And since Country is already your neighbor, they want to get together and chat. Call your local Country Financial representative, Mike Thauer, today at 708-425-1559 to talk about the things that are important to you and how he can help you protect them. If you run into all of a sudden you have a couple of kids that come up with COVID, what would be the plan? Have you kind of hashed that out a little bit? Like we would close down the classroom, or we would close down that floor, or we would actually send everybody home for 2 weeks. Like, is there a threshold where because to me, and maybe I'm just a negative person, like I want my kids back in school, but I'm also very accepting of the fact that at some point I feel like there'll be positive COVID tests in the school. I mean, maybe I'm crazy. I just feel like that this is just something that will eventually, something will slip through, somebody will end up being positive that'll show up to the school. What do you guys have anything kind of like in place as what you do if all of a sudden you get some positivity of those kids that are testing positive or a teacher testing positive in the school?
We have an isolation area that's separate from our nurses area, so that child goes in isolation. We're going to have connected resources so that the family can get the child tested. We have a procedure put in place that they have to have 2 negative tests without a fever, et cetera, et cetera. We're following the Cook County Department of Public Health guidelines in that. Now, what we're hearing from the Cook County Department of Public Health, and really if we have any communicable disease, we contact the Cook County Department of Public Health. So what we're hearing right now is one child, there's contact tracing, disinfecting, could be a day or two closing that particular campus. However, they're saying two cases could close your campus for 2 weeks. Wow. So we work closely with our Cook County Department of Public Health as well as the Illinois Department of Public Health to get guidance in that area. We don't pretend to be medical professionals. But we absolutely rely on our medical professionals to tell us how we handle either a case by case or an outbreak in any campus.
Dr. Margaret Longo, Dr. Leila Bridges-Webb joining me on the EP podcast. I want to leave you with a more lighthearted question, something that I have been curious about since I realized that we have 2 co-interim superintendents now running District 124, and in the middle of something like this, or even after this is over, let's say, you guys, I'm sure, we're walking lockstep. You probably share a brain, but there's got to be a moment in time where you don't agree on something. How is that settled? Is it arm wrestling? Is it paper, rock, scissors? Do you play a game of paper triangle football against each other? Like, what do you do to settle arguments to make a final decision?
We take our temperature, and whoever has the lowest temperature wins.
On a serious note, when we often do not agree. But Not often. Sometimes we do not agree.
Look at this. You're disagreeing currently about how much you disagree with each other.
We're showing you how well we do.
But what happens, we look at what is the best outcome, what is the best response that's going to impact children.
Right.
That's our leading question, and that's how we can come up with answers. But we agree at least, 95% of the time, 96, 97?
Yeah, 96.2.
Yeah, we do. We do take the temperature.
It's awesome.
But it's a joy. I learned from her every day.
And vice versa.
We are both retired, but still feel that we can contribute.
We've worked together before.
Yeah, we believe we can contribute to the district, and we're just not ready to pull over and park yet. So
we're so excited to serve the community of Evergreen Park, and we live here in the area, and we think it's important work. We're honored that they chose us to share this responsibility, and we hope to do the best for the children and their families.
And may I thank you for your observation at the beginning of this interview, thanking us for being one of the few. I want you to know that did not go unnoticed. I really appreciate that observation.
I'm going to tell you something. The fact that you're going to try to do this because it's the best thing for the kids speaks volumes to me, and I think it probably speaks volumes to a lot of people. It would be a lot easier to just sit there and say we're going to sit at home. You guys are taking on a heck of a task, and I'm rooting for you, as I'm sure everybody in Evergreen Park is. Dr. Margaret Longo, Dr. Leela Bridges-Webb. I look forward to a time when this is all past, and you can come down here and join me at the 9-foot homemade oak bar in my basement where we do the podcast from, and we can laugh about this one day.
Oh, thank
We
you
look
so
forward
much.
to it. Thank you.
The EP podcast comes out every Monday, on demand, 30 minutes of good in a world of dumb. Friday, we put out the weekend update. Subscribe. You'll never miss it. Thursday night from 7 to 8 in the evening, we are live. And while you can call anytime 24/7 and leave us a message at 708-459-8406, some of you like to live chat or call in during that live show. And a lot of you like to do it in our overtime session. We're having so much fun sometimes, we actually go past 8 o'clock, and then I just talk about anything. We're going to end the show with a sample of that. Brought to you by Nancy's Home Care. It's a veteran-owned home care agency right here in Evergreen Park. They're also a certified dementia care trainer. If your goal is to keep your loved ones in the safety and comfort of home for as long as possible, you want to contact Nancy's Home Care right now. Nancy's Home Care specializes in helping clients with Alzheimer's, dementia, cancer, stroke, and fall injuries. They provide companion care services such as meal preparation, cognitive stimulation, light housekeeping, and medication reminders. Their personal care services consist of help with bathing, dressing, grooming, and ambulatory assistance. Contact them today, 773-966-3003, or visit nancyshomecare.com. This Thursday, another live show, plus overtime. Kind of sounds like this. Hello, who's this?
This is David from Louisiana.
David, how are you? You're interrupting my time that I was nuked by the Russians, but we'll get back to that story in a moment. How can I help you, David?
Well, I want you to finish that story, but the way to really scare Cubs fans during that time frame was anybody from the bullpen pitching. Anybody.
All right, David. You want me to finish the story and then you got a question,
Yeah.
or what do you want to do here?
No, I've got some sports questions for you, but
Yeah,
I do want to get into
for you.
this.
Okay, I'm going to put the ICBM story on the side here because we got a caller in the overtime thing, and you go ahead and you tell me here on the overtime in the EP podcast. We do this after the live show every once in a while. You tell me your sports question. I would love to. You just dive right in. I'm ready for you. Let's go.
With the shortened MLB season, do you consider this an actual season? So whoever wins the championship, do you consider them a valid champion?
Absolutely, and I'll tell you why. If you're able to navigate a season in which you are going to have players that are suddenly not going to be in your lineup because they test for COVID, whether it's a false positive or an actual positive, if you're going to have to find a way to navigate a season where another team could take away games that you would have had to play, if you're going to have to play under these conditions and find a way to win and also keep your team healthy, I think this may be one of the more difficult seasons any baseball team will go through. If they win, they totally deserve a World Series championship. I'm telling you that right now. It's a total absolute. I don't care which team wins. If you win, you deserve the World Series championship.
And see, I feel the same way, because the difference between baseball and the other leagues is it's really a battle of attrition. You know, if you stay healthy, you get hot at the right time, that kind of thing. That's what you need. Well, now you're not so worried as much about injuries, because you still are. But now you have this outside influence from people who even aren't on your team, you know? And the conspiracy theorist in me says, like, all right, so what if the Yankees and the Red Sox, or, you know, the Cubs and the Cardinals, or somebody are playing like this series for a play into the playoffs or something, and they hire these people to go to these team hotels and try to infect other players? I mean, that's the conspiracy theorist in me thinking about it now.
You think there's going to be foul play now? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
No, that's the conspiracy theorist in me. I mean, just think about it.
Knock it off. Just stop it. Just stop it. There's too many conspiracies already, okay, my friend? There is enough conspiracies in this world right now. I don't need you adding to them, okay? Just knock it off.
It's the pizza delivery conspiracy.
Oh,
yeah, there's another one.
Another show isn't wrapped up. Another show's in the books. Another show isn't wrapped up. And then by the looks, it's gonna be a good one. And we'll see you next week. And the nude is basement. And the nude is basement. Another show is wrapped up. Another show is wrapped up. Another show is wrapped up. And it's in the books. Another show is wrapped up. Another show is wrapped up. And by the looks, it's gonna be a good one. Nudies Basement. Broadcast Basement. The Nudies Basement. The Broad Basement. Slancha.
The EP Podcast. Heard everywhere podcasts can be found. And always at theeppodcast.com.